Hello, everybody. This is Rick Manning, President of Americans for Limited Government. Big controversy these days where the Republicans and anybody who can actually listen and hear English are really upset that Kamala Harris, in a speech before a bunch of environmental lobbyists and environmental activists put on by the Democratic National Committee, she was doing this Q&A with one member of Congress. And in it, she says that it's that racial equity and that people of color are going to get to the front of the line. At least that's what any reasonable person can infer. But rather than take my word for it, I want to make certain that you can actually see what she said and hear what she said for yourself. We'll talk a little bit about what that means, and then I'm going to go on and talk about some of the things she revealed in terms of the Democrats' environmental policy and how they view the world in terms of attacking people who don't agree with them, particularly as it relates to environment. So here you go. Here's Kamala Harris.
And build communities back up in a way that they can be resilient, not to mention adapt to these extreme weather conditions, which are part of the future. On the point that you made about disparities, when I was district attorney of San Francisco, I was elected in 2003. I started one of the first environmental justice units of any DA's office in the country focusing on this issue. And in particular on the disparities as you have described rightly, which is that it is our lowest income communities and our communities of color that are most impacted by these extreme conditions and impacted by issues that are not of their own making. Absolutely. And so we have to address this in a way that is about giving resources based on equity, understanding that we fight for equality, but we also need to fight for equity, understanding not everyone starts out at the same place. And if we want people to be in an equal place, sometimes we have to take into account those disparities and do that work.
Okay, so she's clearly talking about people of color and women, as the questioner pushed in there. But she's clearly talking about people of color being adversely impacted by climate change and hurricanes like Ian. That's the whole conversation, is about the hurricane Ian relief is this conversation. So so she's clearly talking about people of color and the disbursement of resources based upon equity. And it's clear that her conversation, that she's saying equity means, in no uncertain terms, equity means trying to rebalance. It's balancing those who don't have to those who have, from those who have. So if you happen to be not of color, you get to the back of the line. It's pretty obvious that's what she said. And I don't know how any fact checker could find it any different. Let's take a look at some of the comments just for her head is full of word salad, has no idea. Can't do that. So that's but that's kind of what I'm going to do here today. Is I'm going to just take a couple of her quotes and things she said. I'll show you what she said, and then since she's talking in Washington D.C. language, I'll try to interpret it, because once you hear things like environmental justice and words like that, they have a different meaning in Kamala world than they necessarily do if you're just thinking about it rationally. So it's let's see here. Let's see here. So we got let's do this. I'm going to go now, and you heard that piece, and now I'm going to go to another piece where it continues on from that statement. And so let me see if I can make that happen in a meaningful way. There we go. Okay. Sorry if you're going to have to watch Kamala Harris for a second or two more.
Also, I will say, as a former prosecutor, part of this issue also has to be about enforcement and where appropriate, making sure that the bad actors pay a price for what they do that is directly harming communities in terms of their health and well-being.
Okay,
so when we think about
let's stop that right there. We have to focus, as a prosecutor, we have to focus on bad actors who harm people. And so who's she talking about? Well, she's talking to an audience that is anti oil and natural gas, that is anti anything other than what they call renewables, which is wind and solar. And as a result, when she talks about bad actors, she's talking about oil and natural gas companies. She's talking about people who don't have solar panels. Okay, she's talking about using the prosecutorial powers to go after and sue oil companies who are providing us with the energy which makes us the greatest country economic engine in the history of the world. They're providing us with that energy. She is directly saying that her policy is to try to sue them out of existence using the effects of hurricane. And let's say there's $43 billion of losses, property losses in the Hurricane Ian, which is about what I'm hearing is the right answer. So under the Kamala Harris, she would then have the Department of Justice sue oil companies for $43 billion to reimburse the government and reimburse the people of Florida for the costs incurred by Hurricane Ian. Because in the Biden world, in the Kamala Harris world, a hurricane means climate change. A failure for there to be a hurricane means climate change. Any weather disruption is climate change. So, and we heard that from President Biden yesterday, when he said down in Florida, maybe it was 2 days ago, when he said down in Florida that Hurricane Ian settles the issue in terms of what hurricanes and climate change. So it settles the issue on climate change. That's directly from President Biden. So you combine what he said with what Kamala just said, and what they are saying is they are going to sue. They're going to pursue lawsuits against oil and natural gas companies as a federal policy.
Then there are many aspects to it, including something that the president and our administration and I are very excited about, which is the opportunity that moving towards a clean energy environment and industry, what it will do in terms of job creation and building up our economy.
See, I shouldn't have stopped it where I did, because she immediately goes to the clean energy stuff, which tells you she's talking about the oil companies. But we'll keep on going with this thing because there's a lot of stuff.
Tremendous.
Crazy.
So there are many benefits to this work, and to your point about the global piece. Among the leaders that I have been meeting and convening, just recently, in fact.
Hang in there, because she's going to talk about how now America's going to give a whole bunch of money to the Caribbean nations because they are adversely impacted and we are big polluters.
And now this was, I think, the third time I convened the presidents and prime ministers of the Caribbean countries. There's an organization called CARICOM. And I convened them just a couple weeks ago. And the consistent discussion we are having is exactly your point, which is we are one of the greatest emitters in the world. And the Caribbean countries, for example, are paying the biggest price.
Okay. America is one of the biggest emitters in the world, her statement. And the Caribbean countries are paying the biggest price. So if you're going to have equity, you have to have a transfer of wealth to make up for the Caribbean countries paying the biggest price. And she's basically talking shore erosion and things like that, which, by the way, we haven't seen all this stuff about the rising oceans and stuff. They haven't been able to prove that oceans have risen at all, but she's taking normal erosion, which, by the way, happens in an island because an island is the result of a volcanic eruption and a mountain growing up out of the sea from the seafloor, and that's an island. And so if that island is not growing by volcanic eruptions, then it's going to be losing shoreline, because as the seas pound on that island and turn volcanic ash to regular soil to sand, when that conversion occurs, you're going to have times when you get more sand because, as we see in places like Fort Myers, sand everywhere because the ocean raced in and brought a bunch of sand, came out, left the sand behind, sand everywhere. And in the case of Caribbean islands, they're having a problem where sand is being taken away based on their normal ocean currents. So, but she's equating that to global warming, which is, I have to say, it's just unfathomable.
They are some of the lowest emitters, yet the erosion that they are experiencing to their island nations is profound. And when you combine that with the fact that nations like that, their biggest source for their GDP is tourism, and what the climate crisis and extreme weather conditions do in terms of then plummeting their incoming resources, not to mention what we are expecting all good nations to do.
Okay, that's all we need to see. So you now know, when it's really serious, that we pushed back hard on this notion that that hurricanes are caused by climate change, global warming, whatever they want to call it this week. And because you've seen the transference now, once you have that assumption in place that that a weather system is that, just like they've occurred for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands of years, a weather system is directly related to industrialization and the emission of carbon dioxide. The minute you make that connection, you say, this is true. At that point, you then just start talking about the reparations. You talk about equity. You talk about having to deconstruct the industrial America in order to create equity. You end up transfer of wealth to countries that are more than happy to take it, but because they are supposedly adversely impacted. So those are the things that they're doing here. This is the setup. And it's important to understand when the left, it sneaks up on you, but they tell you what they're going to do. And she just did. And that's the real reason why I wanted you to have a chance to take a look at this, because when we catch them telling the truth, we need to publicize it. And in this case, she told the truth. They wanted to disperse funds based upon equity, based on making sure communities of color are put to the front of the line, and women are put to the front of the line. And if you don't happen to fit those descriptions, you're put to the back of the line. So the basic racism that exists in this idea is, in fact, I want you to hear that, understand it. Secondly, it's important to go back and reiterate the point, and it's so important. When they talk about any kind of environmental justice is, in fact, we're going to find somebody to sue, and we're going to find somebody to sue. And when we were talking about Superfund sites, it was one thing where a company had come in, they left a bunch of waste, and then that company was sued by the federal government to help, and you had a Superfund site created, and presumably the cleanup occurred at some point. That's a legit, at least there's a causal situation. But now environmental justice means we're going to go after people who we consider to be pollution emitters. So what does that mean? Any automobile manufacturer that manufactures a car that isn't electric, is an approved vehicle based on the environmental left, can be sued because you're part of the problem. That you can sue the oil companies, you can sue the auto companies, you can sue anybody who is viewed as being not bowing down to the environmental left sufficiently. And you can use the full weight of the federal government in doing it. That's what she said. That's what they intend to do. And that's why we have to make certain these people and this policy gets defeated, and that the Republicans who come in stop saying they're going to do all the above energy policy, because continuing to fund the environmental left through wind tax credits, solar tax credits, and the like, and not forcing these technologies to exist on their own 2 feet in a market, continuing to fund it, whether you're funding from the right or the left. When you fund this, you're funding people who essentially want to end industrial America, and that is that. And I don't know how anybody who purports to be on the right can countenance that. But somebody told them at one point, if we talk about all the above, then we don't have to mention coal, we don't have to mention oil, we don't have to mention natural gas. We can pretend like we're going to be, we're all kumbaya. The left never talks about all the above strategy. They always talk about renewables, 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 and renewables mean eventually we're going to sue oil and natural gas out of existence. We're going to sue gasoline-driven cars out of existence. That's what it means. That's what she said, and we need to take her seriously. With that, I'm going to look at a few of the comments, see if we got anything else. No one wants to hear screwed up, and so that's one of the reasons why I think it's important to hear her is because through the word salad, she's communicating to a group of people who understand what she's saying, because it's a word salad that fits all of their little buzzwords in their communities. And so understand the reason you want to listen to her word salad is because she is communicating. She's just not communicating to you and me. But I've had to listen to this junk too long. So as a result, I hear what she's saying, and I wanted to make sure you knew what that was. The Earth's Paul Stossel, the Earth's climate has been changing since the time of time. I think we all ever control the weather, then you are as stupid as you sound. Equity is another word for discrimination. Paul, A+. That is exactly correct. And oh, by the way, folks, I'm going to read that once more because this is the summary of what I just said. And Paul managed to say it in 3 lines, and I said it in 10, 20 minutes. The Earth's climate has been changing since the dawn of time. If you think we will ever control the weather, then you are as stupid as you sound. Equity is just another word for discrimination. And with that, Paul, we're going to end this podcast. Thank you very much for paying attention, and I hope this helped you be able to listen to these people and understand the language they're using and what they mean. Because while it sounds like gobbledygook, and you get the YouTube videos of them saying all sorts of stuff that doesn't make sense, when you listen to the thing in the entirety, you actually learn what their intent is. And she said it out loud. She said the truth because she was speaking to an audience that was favorable to that message. And with that, I'm going to let you go. Thank you very much for attending, for being here. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. It's really important to subscribe and share. One of the things that makes a difference is sharing makes a difference. It really does. The more people who tune in and see this broadcast, we are trying to be able to get enough viewers that we're able to monetize this thing. Right now, we're getting about 10,000 views, and so if the people are viewing this, we'll share it on your Facebook page and share it on if you're seeing it on YouTube, share it on YouTube, share it on Rumble, share it anywhere where you happen to be seeing it, because the more traction it gets, the more people see it, the more people it's kind of an exponential growth thing, and your sharing it is part of that exponential growth. With that, thank you, and have a great rest of the day.